Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today for our inaugural Youth Innovation Summit at the Boys and Girls Club of Sammamish, Washington. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Roberta, for leading this amazing discussion today. You know, King County is large. We have 2.3 million people, 39 cities, 19 school districts, serving over 500,000 youth. And at Boys and Girls Club of King County, we have 33 clubs all throughout the county doing exactly that. And we take safety really, really seriously. We take youth outcomes really, really seriously. And we're not afraid to tackle these really tough questions, which is what we're going to do today. And so I'm so thankful that we get to do this here in Sammamish, steps away from the Microsoft campus, steps away from Amazon, and home to 290,000 tech jobs. So what better place to have this really important conversation of where technology intersects with youth development. So thank you. So I am pleased to introduce our panelists. First, we have Jim Clark, President and CEO of Boys and Girls Club of America. Thank you for flying in from Atlanta. We have Julia Rubin, Director of Teaching and Learning from Crystal Springs Schools. You came just as far from San Francisco, so thank you for that. Dee Templeton, Corporate VP, Deputy Chief Technology Officer from Microsoft, a little closer commute, thank you. And Catherine DuPont, Head of Responsible AI for Amazon Devices and Service. So thank you, Catherine, for being here. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Roberta. Thank you so much for moderating.
Thank you, and we're thrilled to have you all here. My name is Roberta Romero. I'm an executive producer at King 5, and I'm honored to have this discussion. As Lori mentioned, this is such an exciting and intimidating time when we talk about technology and artificial intelligence. But with that fast changing, we're already seeing our kids having access to artificial intelligence and AI. They've got curiosity, they've got creativity, and in many ways are already ahead of us, and many of us. So we need to see where we're at and how we can move forward and how we're going to frame this conversation with our students, with our young people, with our parents who have a lot of questions as well. And that's why today matters. When community comes together, when partners come together, when families and children can come together and talk about the hard stuff or the stuff that we don't know much about, that's when we can get ahead of the game and we can really make sure we're doing it well. We'll make sure we're doing this well. And I do want to say that that was Lori Bay. She is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of King County, and she is an amazing person as well. She is dedicated to our youth and has really changed the community here, in not just in Sammamish, but all throughout through King County. We are dependent on the Boys and Girls Club in so many ways as a community, and we're deeply appreciative of them. But with that, let's get started on this conversation. And again, this is a panel discussion, Preparing Youth in the Age of Technology and Artificial Intelligence. So with that, we're going to start with a question that I'd like each of you to answer. What is the one skill you believe every young person needs to succeed in a tech and AI-driven world? And we'll start with you.
I think if I had to pick just one skill, it would be to ask really good questions. In this AI-driven world, knowing how to use the tools are very important, but developing that judgment to question whether the response is any good, whether you should challenge it, that's a really uniquely human skill that is so important because AI is designed to answer almost any question. It's designed to be helpful, it's designed to answer with confidence, and it's always balancing between speed and accuracy. And so sometimes it means it might not always get it right. And so you really have to question whether this response is good or not. And so I think developing that judgment of asking those questions is a really good skill. And no matter how technology evolves, it will always come in handy.
Thank you, Catherine. And Julia?
Yeah, well, related to that, I would say the number one skill for me is agency. When students know what they want to do, they have ideas of their own, they just need a way to kind of bring them into the world, that's where AI can really supercharge their efforts. It can actually augment and enhance creativity. It can allow them to build those big projects that they dream about. But at the core of it, children need to be able to develop their own sense of themselves in order for AI tools to benefit them.
Jim?
Well, I wish I would have gone first, Catherine, because I'm right with you. And so I'll just piggyback on that and talk about curiosity for a minute, because I think it's the partner to what you've both said. And with curiosity, you need to be able to not just ask the questions, but also imagine and formulate the answers in your own mind. Because there's going to be misinformation, bad information, conspiracy theories, everything is going to be fed into the AI world, and what you get out of it, I think naturally, hopefully young people will have that curiosity to challenge, to ask the questions, yes, good judgment, but then be able to formulate their own opinion going forward and test it. I think that's part of the curiosity answer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Dee? Hello, lucky last. My word that I would choose is actually adaptability. And I have 3 kids, 3 kids one just graduated, 2 in college. And, as I think about them and the skills that they're going to need in their future, to me, it's, this technology is going to keep changing. And the jobs will keep changing, how we learn, everything is changing. And so I think that adaptability, and also, there's going to be a real skill in learning how to use this AI, right? And so, like, how to work with it, not against it. It's changing at a huge pace, like it's evolving every day. And so I think so that people don't feel intimidated by it, like just having this adaptability to keep learning and be open-minded and curious and avoid falling behind, I guess, and playing catch up. So like this concept of like just the adaptability and also just help us and help everyone continue to shape it as it evolves.
We're going to start off the conversation with it. I think is something top of mind for many people, and that's safety. When we look at social media, there were no guardrails up, nobody knew what it was, and it just went out. And I feel like we've learned lessons from that. And now we're having thoughtful conversations so we can talk about safety before it gets further down the road. So this is going to be for Catherine and Dee. When young people use AI tools or digital platforms today, what safeguards are already in place?
I can speak about my experience at Amazon with kids and Alexa devices. I think safeguards are so important because when you, at Amazon, what we try to focus on is 3 pillars. The first one is around parental empowerment. We want to provide those parents with the tools so that they're fully in control of the experience. That can be around making sure that they have, a parental dashboard to look at parental activity, to look at putting time limits, maybe age-appropriate restrictions on devices. The second pillar is around privacy and safety. That's something that is super foundational and important in our line of work. And so, again, building those controls for parents, like if a child wants to use an AI feature, getting parental consent, or maybe deciding how often they want those voice recording to be deleted. The third pillar is around content moderation or content guardrails. And so if we detect that a discussion becomes a little bit sensitive or even inappropriate, well, we will direct the AI to tell the customer to go talk to a trusted adult or go seek an external resource instead of having the AI give the answer. And so it's a constant balance between protection and making these experiences very engaging, very delightful. And so those are the 3 pillars at a high level that we build to make sure that we are balancing the need for kids to really develop and learn and have these educational experiences with AI, but also provide the parents with those controls so that they can really guide their child's AI development.
Dee?
Yeah, I think similar to what you said about the social media, I think it's super important for us as parents and for caregivers to, we have a right to ask about the safety and the controls and, have that feedback loop. It's also about the engagement. And, for me as a parent, seeing how my kids use it and then talking about that and then giving that feedback into how to be safe. And I remember, like, when my kids were super young, I was telling this story to someone today. When my kids were young, when I gave them a cell phone, they had to give me the PIN to their cell phone. And little did they know that some random time during the week, I would ask to look at their phone. And I would read through their text messages and kind of see how they're using their phone, et cetera. And so I think we all need to play a part in this, like helping educate, our kids or the communities, et cetera. And I think the safeguards will continue to evolve. At Microsoft, we've done a big shift where safety for AI and how we deploy AI is now the very first thing we talk about. And so, like, as we build products and services that the world is going to use, the first thing we need to think, and it needs to be the principle with how we build everything, is the safety and all the safeguards. And even when we deploy products and services, once we have people using these tools, we need to then iterate and evolve the safety aspects and update the content filters, once we see what people are generating, how they're generating it, how, extreme things are. It's like it needs to be this constant feedback cycle so that we're always improving. And then I think there's a big part of safety, which is we can't do it alone. Yeah. Like, Amazon can't do it alone. Boys and Girls Club can't do it alone. So we all need to be part of this community of helping to shape what the safety needs to look like for these AI tools.
Which is a great segue for us because we're talking about parents. And Julie, I'd like to talk to you about how should they approach their kids when we're talking about AI? What advice do you have for that?
Yeah, so I think a large component of what we've already discussed is part of it, parents having the understanding that they need to be able to put the appropriate and safe guardrails in place for their children. But there's this whole other territory around AI literacy that students really need a long-term trajectory of learning to be able to actually have the good, healthy habits they need to engage with AI. And some of that will happen in school and some of it will happen out of school. So inside the school setting, schools who have clear policies and guidelines around appropriate AI use and are working with them with teachers and classrooms are seeing stronger outcomes when it comes to understanding what cheating is now or not, understanding what academic integrity truly means or not. And they're cultivating that level of discernment within young people. That is a skill that they will take with them outside the classroom. And so clarity is kindness when it comes to sort of policies and guidelines and practices within the school setting. And of course, teacher training is a big part of that as well, for literacy for all, for students and adults. In the home setting, it will look a little bit different, but the role that parents play is, of course, critically important as well. My advice to parents would be when a student comes home from school and they've been given an assignment that's actually asking them to use AI to enhance their brainstorming, to revise their writing, to get feedback, to make music, any number of these growing number of applications that AI tools can do and be used for. Parents should come with their curiosity themselves. We talked about curiosity earlier. Ask your child, tell me about this assignment. Do you think, are there any guidelines from your teacher about this assignment? And as they embark in their learning, take a moment to be alongside for the ride. See and witness how your child learns or isn't learning as they embark on that, whatever that assignment may be. And then, like any good teacher would say, check for understanding. So at the end of some kind of experience that involves a use of an AI tool, a parent can also say, tell me what you learned. What do you think about that? Do you think the AI was accurate? And then the parent themselves is also building these good literacy skills by checking in. Can parents do that with every single assignment? Of course not. But even having, the same way that AI can be your guide on the side, parents are playing a role as an important guide on the side as well when it comes to safety and responsibility. So those are some practices I'd recommend.
Thank you. And Jim, as national leader of the Boys and Girls Clubs, you have a wide look at a lot of different areas. What are a few practical things you would tell parents about and mentors that they can do to help?
Well, it is a great question. And I think, at the base of it, it's good to see and hear that the AI companies, producers, they are interested in these guardrails. They are interested in regulation. They are interested in making sure it's safe and there's protections. So I think that's all great. Unfortunately, it's also like Star Trek, right? We're boldly going to go where no one is gone. So there's not a lot of answers to what these guardrails or these protections really are. I think they're coming. Both companies here are clearly working on that. But I think it goes to a couple of different thoughts. Number one is not all households have two parents. And, at Boys and Girls Clubs, it's about half. So, and in most cases, that one parent or single parent household family, the individual's working, and sometimes 2-3 jobs just to make it all come together. So the risk is perhaps more in other places, and the challenges in other places. So I think it does get, in a lot of instances, put in our lap, or the school's lap, and or other community assets to be able to help help young people navigate. And so I do think there's a responsibility. It's something we're working on, just like when the internet came out. We're not going to stop its use. Kids are going to use it. Teens are going to use it. They're going to be way ahead of the adults on all of this. And we're going to be the last to know. So I do think it is about learning and educating and information about, you used judgment, Catherine, before. That's what this is about, is what's good judgment, what's bad judgment. There's going to be an equal number of risks to, or evils to good as we look at this. So I do think developing parameters, whether it's at home or in the out-of-school time space or at school, when it comes to helping instruct, inform, and really educate young people on what's good and what's bad here is going to be absolutely critical. So in that way, it does remind me of when the internet came out. And unfortunately, if you go back to the invention of the iPhone or the internet days, we've seen a deterioration to a large degree in some key factors of a young person's well-being, their mental well-being. All of these things have played a significant role in terms of where kids' state of mind is today. I think it's also refreshing to see that schools have started it. Let's start limiting the screen time. We need the tools, and we need the tools, AI, to help advance society, help advance learning, help advance all the good things that will come from it. But at the same time, we have to put the guardrails in for the evils, and it's about education, learning, and informing.
And I really appreciate you brought the equity part up. I think that is such an important component that does kind of get pushed over to this end. Like, everybody can do this. Well, no, we have to, as a community, link arms and make sure we're doing it together. And of course, we're talking about youth, and I know I was born in the last century, so we needed to make sure that we had the voices of the youth. So King County Boys and Girls Club did reach out to some of our kids from the Boys and Girls Club here in our area and asked them for their questions. And so with that, since they're in school, we have a few people here who are going to bring up questions that the kids have asked. So with that, we have our very first youth question.
I'm asking this question on behalf of Youth of the Year candidate Layla from the Federal Way Club. This question is for Dee. What do you see as the most misunderstood idea about AI right now?
I think that AI is the tool, right? And so if we all think about AI as a tool, then it's up to us how we choose to use that tool. And that can be individually, as companies, as society, as clubs and communities. And what we're seeing is that the most interesting and exciting impact that we're seeing from AI is having it help people as a tool in their job and help augment their jobs, etc., not automating their jobs, right? And so, like, if you give the same tool to all of us and ask us to use it in our day jobs, we're going to use it in a very different way, right? And we're not using it to replace us. We're using it so that we can either spend our time with our special skills working on something that is, a better use of our time with the skills that I have or Jim has, etc. And so, like, the best thing for us is to put these tools into people's hands so that we can actually see the secret, amazing things that these people are going to do with these tools.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. As a journalist, there was no internet. How did I get facts? I'm trying to figure out how I did it without the internet, And so I think about AI, and I am using it. It's made my job so much easier in so many ways. I'm grateful for it, but there was this fear. There was this it's just interesting. But if you can jump in, it's a tool, and use it wisely. I suppose we have to teach that first. So let's talk about job readiness. Speaking of jobs. AI is already reshaping jobs. In our newsroom, it is a very different world right now. And we have to be very careful when you think about it, because with AI, if we get video that somebody sent in, so lots of checks and balances, but also making our jobs easier in many ways. But what do we want to see for our young people so that they're prepared not just to keep up, but to lead?
It is a great question. And I think, again, kids and teens are going to actually be in front of us on this topic. And they are going to be prepared. And again, it could be a varying scale of preparedness, but they're going to be ahead of the adults on this. So I think we got to start with that premise. And then second of all, really move to what is inside of AI and what is available to use, to learn, and to explore what career opportunities, job potential, readiness really looks like. I mean, I think this is going to be the key that unlocks the treasure chest when it comes to career exploration and job readiness. Because there'll be so much information available, and that could be video, audio, reading, the ability to say, hey, I really am thinking about this. Give me the 5 things that are the most difficult when it comes to this job. I mean, they'll have that, it's instant, right? Yeah. So I think they'll be able to learn and grow and understand perhaps what they do want to do or don't want to do so much faster than we were able to, and really get that experience kind of real time. So I think it's going to be a huge asset, huge tool for young people to use when they are considering different options or different opportunities. I do think at the same time, it goes back to all the other things we said, that you got to challenge that information yes. to your fact point and understand what's real and what's not. But boy, when it comes to exploration, this is going to unlock the treasure chest for sure.
Absolutely. So the clubs recently participated in Microsoft's Hour of AI during Computer Science Week. Thrilling. Looking ahead, what kind of roles or opportunities do you see emerging for the next generation, and what skills will matter the most?
What skills will matter the most? Well, if we think about the next generation of, our youth that will be applying for jobs and things, I think it'll be completely different to today, where we're all tied to our job title, right? Like we're bound, our job is defined by what our job title is. And I think for the people that will be seeking their career opportunities, it'll be more about how the problems within their org or their team can be solved by AI. And I think it's going to be all about, the questions, to your point. It's like they're going to need to know how to ask questions to help solve the problems that they have within their job. But I think, to me, the biggest skill is going to be like how to question, right? Like if you're a developer, then the AI is helping you write code. And so it's not writing all the code for you, but you're going to need to be very good at prompting it or asking questions of it so that it can actually help them.
Thank you. Many parents, and this is for Julia, worry their kids will become too dependent on AI for schoolwork, and we always hear about the cheating or that they're going to be using it this way. So how do we use this not as a crutch, but as that tool?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to have a nerdy moment and cite a paper because you said crutch. There's a paper out recently called Coach Not Crutch, which is worth Googling if you're interested, that shows that exposure to some AI tools in one assignment can lead to better outcomes and performance on a future unassisted assignment. So there is some pure measure of learning that AI tool use in general can enhance learning outcomes, even in hard foundational skills. That's my nerdy moment for all of you to know that we're trying to measure learning as authentically as we possibly can as students are working toward and embracing and not and being able to be critics of AI. When it comes to how students will be ready for their futures, I think is kind of the
Yes.
spirit of this
Mhm.
question? Yeah.
Yes.
So 2 things. One, use it in your academic learning for things like studying, personal tutors, learning a new language. When you can speak to an AI and the AI in a language that you're learning in school, and the AI can speak back to you at your level of fluency back and gently push you, we're seeing like stronger outcomes in language fluency in foreign language classes, for example. That's a really good use in the world of academics. But, courses like 9th grade biology, lots of content-heavy courses, use those AI tools to bulk you up. Many of them can give you quizzes, can give you audio and video to study with, mind maps, all the things you could possibly imagine to help you be in the driver's seat as the learner. Those are all enhancements for your learning, which of course are relevant to future readiness. Outside of those types of applications, the second one is have opportunities to think big, use your imagination, have an idea, have your vision, because I think it's about inquiry, but it's also about vision. Children have incredible vision. And if you give them the opportunity to use tools safely to manifest a vision they've never had an opportunity to access in that way before, they will blow your minds. They're going to be amazing. And some of that kind of work, whether it's like a hackathon or some kind of it doesn't have to be a competition, some kind of celebration of learning symposiums where kids can share and learn from one another, having built projects used in AI, including AI tools, that's like the other half of the pie here, where you're like inculcating self-knowledge, awareness, vision, and bias to action. These are like really core future readiness skills as well. They live in a different part of a school experience, oftentimes in sort of that co-curricular space or outside the core academic subjects. So those are my 2 recommendations on that.
You make me want to do homework again.
I never left school.
And Catherine, your role at Amazon is actually a great example of how fast the tech industry has changed. Can you tell us about your job and what you've encountered just so quickly and what you're doing?
For sure. So I think when I started working in the trust and safety space at Amazon, I was working on what we now call the original Alexa. And things were a little simpler. It was very predictable. There was not much ambiguity. Almost every response was pre-programmed. So you had very limited use cases. You could play music, set a timer, turn on the lights. But if the use case wasn't programmed, it didn't exist. And then LLMs happened and everything changed. And then you had infinite number of use cases. And these LLMs became so powerful and so intelligent that it could reason with you. It could understand customer intent. So for example, you can say things now like, play music everywhere, but don't wake the baby. Ooh. And the LLM will know to play music on every device except in the nursery. So the model is just so intelligent now that it can reason and understand the customer so much better than before. Or I can give you another example. You can tell Alexa Plus, if it rains tomorrow, turn off the sprinklers. So now Alexa will reason and think, okay, I'm going to call the weatherman. And if it rains tomorrow, I'm going to make an action to say, turn off the sprinklers. And so those use cases didn't exist before. And so we went from managing a finite list of use cases to this infinite list. And so we moved from rule-based approach on, what content is and is not acceptable to really defining, what are those instructions that we need to use to really guide the model, or what is good training data for the model? What are those guardrails that we need to implement to make sure that we are continuing to innovate on behalf of customers, but at the same time, building those experiences that are safe, trustworthy, and responsible.
That's a big job.
Tell that to my boss.
Yes, I will. And she gets a raise. And Alexa still turns on my lights. And now we have our next youth question. I think they're going to be coming up from the audience. Hello.
Hi, my name is Kelly Guy with the Boys and Girls Club of King County. And I'm asking this question on behalf of the Youth Year candidate Antimo with the Rotary Club. And this question is for Jim. For those clubs that have lots of technology and great computer labs, what advice would you give teenagers on how to utilize this technology to help set them up for success, not just within our club services and programs, but outside of life.
Yeah, and I think that really is the topic we've been talking a lot about is, whether it's parents or whether it's young people, how do they take advantage of this technology as a tool to help them grow, develop, and prepare for the future, right? So obviously at Boys and Girls Clubs, that is the theme. It is about getting future ready. And I think AI will be a new tool that we can exploit and use and take advantage of when we're instructing or delivering curriculum or program to help young people. I think, frankly, we'll be able to do it faster, better, and a higher degree of quality and impact than ever before. And that means young people are going to have a better experience. And what we do know is when they have a better experience at a Boys and Girls Club, the outcomes in their lives go up. They get more A's and B's in school. They're more likely to graduate high school, more likely to go into post-secondary education. They stay away from substances. They get more exercise. So all of this will play into this experience equation that we value and work so hard to grow with young people. And that will lead to better outcomes in their lives. So that's how I think success, maybe that's too linear, but I do think that's how success will come to be for a lot of young people. I think if there's another side to this, it's a little bit of what Dee was talking about. I don't think, AI in our world is going to, replace youth development professionals. I think it's going to be as I just said, the add-on tool so you can do your job better and actually give you more time on task so that you spend more time with young people with that relationship, which again is one of the, as you know, core elements to a great experience. So I think all of this starts to culminate around this experience that young people have, and then we know what the outcomes are going to be in their lives. I also think that get ready, because what I believe within 5 years is going to happen, some of you heard me at lunch talking about this, today, so much is, and no disrespect to Alexa or to Copilot, but I like Copilot, so that's what we use. But the reality is, we're all using it already. I called the hotel last night or yesterday afternoon to get the shuttle to come pick me up. It's a bot, right? And she was very good and very nice, super interactive. Got my answers quickly. This was really well done, right? I never talked to a human being. So the get ready part is, I think there's going to be a thirst for human interaction. And that's exactly the core of what Boys and Girls Clubs are all about. So I think you will see, schools too, but I think you will see within 5 years this surge and thirst to get more human interaction. And we're there for that.
Pendulum swinging back. You kind of see it back and forth, and now back to this. I think also the post-COVID thing, I see people wanting to have more interaction. So we've got sort of this push now to let's spend time now. We can save time here so we can do this over here as well. For our final section, we're going to look at something core to the mission of the Boys and Girls Clubs, and that's equity, which we've already talking about. Even every young person deserves to benefit from these tools, regardless of background or zip code. So, Jim, when we talk about equitable access, what does that actually look like on the ground? These are lofty words, and we can talk about it all we want to, but it takes work and effort and insight and actually saying it out loud. And I really appreciate, like I said, when you said it earlier. So how does that look on the ground?
Yeah, I'll keep this one short. I feel like I've been taking a lot of the airtime here. But we are the Boys and Girls Club, so I guess it's okay. Look, I think the short answer to this is you have to meet young people where they are. Mm-hmm. And it's not one size fits all. And I think if anything we've learned from technology and the internet over the last 20 years, that's it. And it is about meeting them exactly where they are and then going from there. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the simple answer. I think that's loaded with nuances. That's loaded with a lot of tentacles. Mm-hmm. But to really make this successful and benefit all young people, we've got to meet them where they are.
Love it. So Dee, what practical steps can public and private organizations take right now to make sure more young people benefit from AI, no matter where they live or what resources they have access to?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same as Jim, which was meet them where they are. But, for Microsoft, our mission is to empower everyone, every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. And that opportunity isn't dependent on what your zip code is, right? And so for me, also the equity, to Jim's point, is meeting them where they are, put the students first, and then give the educators also the tools so that they can help the students. We're honestly going to be learning from them, because when we see how they use AI compared to how I use it, it's completely different. And so I think there's this two-way learning. And I think also having that two-way learning, and having, a lot of these children and, young adults is they're also going to help with the equity through their communities and their hubs and everything else. And so I feel like there's this big network effect of meet them where they are, give both the students and the teachers the tools, work through the communities, just expanding that, it's not up to us, it's not up to Jim alone. It's like a whole community, a whole nation, a whole world of just helping meet everyone where they are and how it can help them today. Is it helping you, learn a new language? Is it helping ask you questions about a book that you've just read for school? Don't ask it to summarize the book. Ask it to quiz you on the book, right? And so everyone's going to meet it somewhere differently, but I think, it's just not access alone, is what I think.
Thank you. And we're going to go to a youth question now.
I'm asking this question on behalf of Japna, who's a member at our Ballard location. And Japna wants to know, how should adults and institutions build trust with young people around technology and AI, so it's happening with them and not without them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it starts by listening. So listening to feedback. Our youth, they're using AI, as my colleagues have said, every day, and they have these real insights into what works, what doesn't, what feels fair, what feels intrusive, what's helpful. And so really listening to that feedback and using that feedback to shape our product decisions, to help build better product. I think that's really how you earn trust with the youth. And in fact, at Alexa, what we did is we built these features to get feedback really quickly. So you can say to your device, Alexa, I have feedback, and it will send your feedback directly to the team, and the teams can then action it and do something about it really quickly. And so having that feedback loop is so pertinent, because then we can build better product that they can then use themselves. So listening, I think, is really important, listening to customer feedback.
I love that. And I appreciate it. And I still say please and thank you to Alexa. Let's have it. So I want to go on with our equity questions. And Julia, if you can name 2 or 3 tangible actions that would expand access to AI learning and technology education, what would they be? So that access.
Yeah. Okay. So fundamentally, it needs to be absolutely clear to your school or your organization that every child has concrete access to the internet and concrete access to a device. That's not always clear. It can be a little more complex than it appears at the outset. But in order for that foundational access to be in place, your organization needs to actually go through child by child and make sure everybody's hooked up, everybody's got what they need. The tools themselves can be free or of minimal expense. And so that piece, once you're kind of locked in, you can start talking about what is much deeper on the topic of access, which has to do with where students feel a sense of belonging, where they're having experiences with other children, where is mentorship. So that's access as it relates to learning. So if you want to create more access for students to all, as democratically as possible, be able to learn these tools, your teachers need to be trained on how to use the tools, and your school leaders do. I have a very school-focused lens, obviously, but your organizational leaders need to also understand how they work and where the pitfalls are and the potential benefits. And once you start closing the learning gap, that does a lot more work and a lot more profound and meaningful work than kind of closing the hardware gap or the internet gap. That's where the real access actually lives. So mentor programs where students who are learning these tools are paired maybe with another student who knows a lot about how they work. Peer-to-peer learning is a really effective way to kind of build a bigger access footprint, a greater sense of belonging for a child. Back to sort of peer cohorts, that kind of learning can be really effective. And then have like your early adopter teachers who are just ambassadors for the work. So it's really more, access is so much about the ecosystem of learning, even more deeply than it is about like the wires and the bits and stuff. I will say, just to like piggyback on what you said, Jim, and I'm saying this not just because like I'm here in this moment, I actually think that organizations like the Boys and Girls Club are going to become astronomically more important at this time. Because anything where kids are able to connect with one another and build strong relationships that are human, not AI mediated, not all the time screen mediated, is just going to become so much more important. Even at my school that has tons of tech, I'm here from Silicon Valley. We are in it with tech. Even our schools are talking about how we want kids to have more experiences. We want them to have more relationships, more time outdoors, more time playing. And so if your organization is already doing that, you're in great shape. So I just wanted to offer that because I don't get to do this kind of thing very often in my school office, but experiences will mean more than they ever have.
Thank you. And Catherine, along those lines, what conversations should organizations be having internally about equity as they build or deploy AI? What are you doing around that?
When I think of equity, what comes to mind for me is accessibility. And I think we need to build AI for everyone. And, you know, that's something that we take very seriously at Amazon. It's not an afterthought. And so if you look at Alexa again, you know, we have this voice forward approach where a customer that has, you know, a low vision, a difficulty with mobility, aging, doesn't like to use the app, they can go about their day, do their daily task using just their voice. And that is so powerful and so inclusive. We also think about languages, right? The languages are also a form of equity, because now we can understand customers that have different accents, like me, that switch dialogue from French to English in their household, right? And so instead of me having to learn a new language or having to adapt my style or adapt my accent so the AI can understand me, they have those capabilities to understand customers and, like Jim said, to meet them where they're at. And so I think making sure that we have those conversations around building for everyone, making AI available to all, that is really when we're going to realize the true potential of AI.
Thank you. And we have a youth question as well.
I'm asking this question on behalf of Youth of the Year candidate Jonna with our Kirkland Club. This question is for Julia. How will school grading be adapted in AI?
I love this question. So thanks to Jonna for asking this question. In order to authentically assess student learning, how do we do that now? How will that impact grading? I think what kids are going to see over time is that more of what they do in class is what they're going to be assessed on, so that teachers have live in the moment opportunities to, this is going to be old school a little bit, I think, take tests, to explain their learning out loud to a peer or to a group in a presentational or project-based format. And I think some of the actual active, let's take writing, since writing is in a special place in this moment and the writing instruction is so challenging. A lot of that's going to happen in class now. Take-home assignments, I think you'll see less and less of, in order for teachers to and speaking as a teacher myself, to feel really confident that like what you're receiving is real evidence of learning and you're meeting your mission for yourself as a teacher and for the child. I also think there will be more dynamic ways in which you will be graded. So it won't just be like written texts. You might find that your assignments are, if they are AI-based, be graded in a more dynamic way. I'm assessing how well you generated this image or made this piece of music, or how much did you improve on this piece of writing based on the feedback that an AI gave you? That's another kind of stream of grading. And then I think also there will just be more live experiences so that what goes home isn't the thing that teachers are going to be grading. It's going to be more about what happens in class in the moment.
Thank you. We have some extra time, so I'm going to ask a few more questions. What I'm curious about is right now, when AI first came out, and was it just a year ago? Was it 2 years ago? And it was just fear and this is terrible. I remember, we're not going to touch it and don't you dare teach it in school and no students can use it. To now, honestly, I remember them saying that, and even in my own newsroom. And now it's completely flipped. If you're not using it, you're probably going to get fired because you don't have the skill set. It really has flipped. I'm just curious, how are you seeing people embrace or not embrace AI overall at this moment? Are we seeing more interaction or still this sort of, if we can all answer.
I'll start. I think it's here, it's front and center, everybody's using it. As I said earlier, I think kids are ahead of us. And there's a message there for the adults. You better get on the bandwagon if you're not, because it is going to drive everything. And I think a lot of good will come out of that, but kids are actually ahead of us when it comes to use and the creative, dynamic use of it. I think that's, the baseline here. I think the second piece of this is really around urgency. And maybe it's the antithesis of what you're saying. If you're going like that, that's old school, even if it was a year ago, right? Yeah. I mean, this is, you have to go now. This is a sense of urgency. And the pace of change, the amount of change is going to accelerate. We're going to compress 25 years. The last 25 years is going to get compressed into 4 or 5 years. So just think about that change. And if you're not there, you will definitely be with your father's Oldsmobile or whatever that saying was, So I really think young people are way ahead of us already.
Any other thoughts?
I'm exactly with Jim. I think the speed, it's not 1 or 2 years. I've been working with AI for maybe 7 now. But that's how fast time's going, right? Yes. And every year, we're seeing this big change and big step change with AI. And we all have to become learnadals. We have to get on that wagon. And it's not I can just go learn it for the next week and then I'm good. No. We have to keep learning constantly. And we're just going to have to continually learn and adapt as well, right? And I think it's underestimated currently, just you should go play with it, you should go learn it, you should, use it for whatever you want to use it for to help your learning. But I feel like we're all underestimating how much time we should all even be just setting aside to play with it, learn it. Yes, the kids are ahead of us, and they're going to stay ahead of us. But we need to actually play with it, experience it, whether it's in your personal life helping or your professional life. But I think we are back at school. Every day there's something new to learn with AI, or there's just such big step changes, to what Catherine was saying, even with, these models and what they're capable of. And it's across everything. Look at doctors or people inventing new drugs or all these other things. There is no one thing that you can't, there is not one piece of anything where AI is not a piece of it somewhere.
Catherine, did you have some?
No, I was going to say there's also negatives. My mother doesn't call me anymore for IT questions because she just uses, Alexa or other AIs. And so there's been negatives as well, because before she would call me for everything. Mm-hmm. And now I'm so delighted every time I see her, who's in 75, using AI to really help and this one-stop shop to get answers to all her questions. Even though I don't get as many phone calls, I think it delights me to see that everyone is embracing it, not just the youth, but also our parents and grandparents.
I'm not sure if any of you can ask this, but I will tell you, our Washington State Governor, Bob Ferguson, just recently tweeted out or put it on Facebook that we are going to have legislation around AI. And I don't even know what that means. But how are we going to be working with state agencies? And then when we talk about, here's the state, here's the federal, here's city governments, here's school districts. There's not how are we going to navigate that? Because it's going to impact.
But this goes back to my point about communities, like whether the communities are talking to the government or the people making the policies or the regulators, like there's a new space for everyone. And there are some tough conversations to be had, but there's some really good conversations to be had.
Yeah. And I guess I would tell people too, this is when you get involved in your state and your local government. It's really important to have a voice there. These are the type of decisions that are going to make that can impact us for decades if we're not part of the conversation now with this new technology. So really encourage that as well. I'm just wondering if there's any personal stories with AI. You told us about your mom, which I find delightful. Any other or when you first clicked for you or like, wow, this is really working? I'm just curious if you have any of those.
Well, I have the Alexa story, and it's a good one. It's some people may not like it, but I did. You find yourself having a conversation with your spouse or your kids or someone in the house, whatever, and we were talking about my son needing new tires on his car, and talked for a while. Well, send him to Firestone or send him to Discount Tire, whatever. Alexa is very adept at coming back and saying, 3 ads for tire, purchases. And I was like, you know what? That's really good. Instead of having to go look for, a company to go to or a place to go to, it was right there. So I liked it.
Yeah. Any others, Dee?
Well, I love to cook. My husband is the cook for making our dinners, but I love to cook and baking, and I love to learn how to bake things from other countries. And so, for me, I have my iPad open and I'm just like ChatGPT or Copilot, and I just search for new things I can make, or even just telling it what I have. Hey, I would like to make a chicken curry, and these are the things I have. It's kind of like just having something there that just helps me with exploring new recipes, or especially if you're going to a new country and you want to learn hey, what are the most famous dishes there, and then try to recreate them. And so for me, it's all hobbies. It helps me with all of my hobbies.
Julia, do you have any?
Yeah, I coded something last weekend.
Wow.
What? That's never happened ever in my life. I have 0 coding experience, but I have grown up with many technical people in my family. So I've had visions of things I wanted to build, websites, this, that, and the other. But I couldn't go learn coding languages and then build the thing I had in my head until last weekend. And I was on the phone to my brother, and he's talking about essentially the vibe coding tool that they use at his work. And I'm like, I'm going to go home and try that. I mean, he's my big brother. I'm going to go home and try it. And I managed to build myself in an hour, something that I was just dreaming up for my job, which was an interactive space for school leaders to learn more about what's happening in classrooms. Because I'm an academic leader, I'm the director of teaching and learning. I visit classrooms, I know what's happening. But higher up the chain of command, they just don't. They don't have time. They're not coming to see your kids every day, and they're not in it. They're not in the trenches, but they want to know more. And I was like, this is something I could build. This is an interactive space that I could actually build. And I did. I had Cursor open, and I had Gemini open, and I was getting the prompts from one. And I mean, look, it was like the IKEA version of coding, okay? It was assembly. It wasn't, I coded it, but it worked. And it was I felt like I was 10 years old. It was the most exhilarating feeling. And so those are the kinds of things you never thought you could do, and the barrier was just too high. I think that's one of the promises of the future for these kinds of tools for maybe people of all ages. But yeah, that's my recent play exploration with AI.
So girls and boys clubs, across America have unique access to both students, young kids, parents, community. How do you see their role in AI?
They're kind of like the front line, right? Like you have these kids and youths that come through the Boys and Girls Club that are have different things happening, right? Like as Jim said, some may have single parent, some of the parents may have multiple jobs and they're not there to help the kids with their homework or something else. And so for me, like, as we think through AI and how it can actually help anyone and the accessibility of like how the AI can help them is they're the front line in seeing how it's helping and shaping and like giving these children time back to play, or it's helping them learn, or like, especially if they're students that need additional learning. Everyone learns in a different way, right? And I think the Boys and Girls Club probably see that more than most in people that have learning challenges or need to learn in a more, physical way or like interactive way, etc. And so for me, like, imagine getting all the learnings from how they're all using AI and how to make it safer, how to make it more accessible, how to make it easier to interact with if you learn in this special way, or, you have challenges in this other way. And so to me, like, they're a gigantic feedback loop for how we can make the AI even better and serve them and the next kids that come through the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Julia?
I think also the Boys and Girls Club has the benefit of being able to be really creative with their programming. And so they have the opportunity to design lots of different kinds of learning experiences for kids where they can truly explore, learn about tools, how to refine their own practices, learn about themselves as learners outside the confines of a school environment, which actually can really skyrocket learning, just being outside of the school environment for that. And so they hold a really special role in actually being able to go out ahead and do some real exploratory work with kids in a way that's less beholden to standards, less kind of constrained in ways that would diminish their ability to just like try new things and get creative. So the structure is right. The outside of the classroom piece is really right too.
Yeah, similar to I think what Dee said around getting that feedback. I think they are, using AI, like they know what's helpful, what's not. And so getting those insights from them to help us build better products that they can use every day, and we can continue pushing the boundaries of making them better, making them more helpful. I think that'd be really fun if we could use them as partners. And so helping us build products that they will use and make better over time.
Thank you. I can't thank you all enough. What an interesting and hopeful conversation, because I was in fear too. Like, I didn't know what to expect with AI, and now I feel so much better. And boy, Jim, I better get on it. I'm like, you really lit a fire under me. I'm going to get on this because I want to be part of this too. I really appreciate the information you brought to us today and for our audience out here so that we could know what we're getting ourselves into and how to do it well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the panelists, to the questions from the youth. We are so appreciative of it, bringing this community together through the Boys and Girls Clubs of King County. And if you heard something here or are inspired or want to learn more about the Boys and Girls Clubs, please know you can find us and you can join us and help us be part of this as we move forward into that new world, as you said, Jim. So thank you all. We appreciate it and have a great day.